Good. All right, so we're here on hole number one, just walking through a process on teeing it up. So the first thing I always want to do when we're teeing off on a hole is look at the fairway for trouble. So this hole, we've got out of bounds left and plenty of room right. Okay, and so we're going to definitely favor the right side of the fairway. We're going to tee up here on the left side of the tee block. Okay, that's going to give us the best angle to tee off up here. The second thing we're going to do is start looking at the flag and try to figure out where that flag is and what's going to give us the best shot. So that flag, right side of the green, so anything in the middle of the fairway is going to give us a great shot. So we're going to tee up here. We don't want to miss too far right, but we want to favor that right side of the fairway. Come through here. We're going to go a couple practice swings. Okay, line up with that right side of the fairway in mind. And then trust the swing and let it go.
Wow. So do you have any pre-swing thoughts when you step up to the ball?
Just my pre-shot routine, couple practice swings. As I line up that club confident with where that's going, and then just letting it go.
Okay.
Really, the more we can turn brain off and swing it through, the better off we're going to be. Good.
Yep.
All right, so we're talking here about how to get out of trouble punching out of the trees. So the first thing we're going to do is get a yardage. All right, so we've got 150 yards from here onto the green. So when we're choosing our club, that's the first big thing here, is we want to make sure we're not going to have anything that hits the nearby trouble. Okay, so here we're going to wrap it around that tree, so we're not really worried about trajectory. Okay, and so any club's going to use. We're going to be able to use any club for trajectory wise. We don't need to really keep it low. Okay, so for 150 out of a punch shot, I'm going to go up one club. So I usually hit a 9-iron from 150, so I'm going to go ahead and grab an 8. Ryan, you can go ahead and grab your club. Okay, the number one thing I think about when I'm in trouble is the majority of golfers, when they're in trouble here, their shot out of trouble is short. Okay, so about 90% of the time I see golfers hit it short out of trouble. Okay, so if we hit it long sometimes, we just need to. Okay, because statistically we're going to leave it short. And so with the club selection, we're going to grab that 8-iron. If I had a different choice, might even go down to 7, but to get plenty of club to hit it out long. In fact, now that I talked through that, I am going to go grab a 7. Okay, especially for teaching purposes, because as I say that, I do not want this to go short. Okay, so with my swing, I'm going to keep those hands forward, keep the weight on my left side, and really try to hit it hard and low. Okay, so what I'm envisioning here is that ball coming out with a little bit of left curve and running all the way up onto the green. Again, a lot of times through these punch shots, I'm just thinking tendency is to hit it short, so I want to make sure to hit it long. Okay.
We're 150 yards here. How long are you trying to fly this one?
Fly it, honestly, with this shot, we don't have really a lot there. I'm going to probably try to fly it just over halfway there, so probably flying at 100 yards and letting it roll about 50.
Okay.
Okay, and that's going to, a lot of the times, be dictated by trees and stuff. Here we've got a pretty straightforward shot. The other thing we're going to always look for as we're running it in, we've got fairway all the way up through there, so it should be a pretty simple shot to get there. And again, right now as I'm stepping up, priority number 1, don't hit a tree. Priority number 2, let's get it to the green. Okay, so we're going to get it to the green or long, and now let's see how I do. Okay, came out just a little high, and pretty well center of the green. So that one came out a little bit high and a little left, so it flew a little longer than I would have liked to, but it ended up being pretty good.
You might have mentioned this, but where do you like to play the ball in your stance when you're
A little bit back in the stance, so just off that right side, and really try to hit the inside of the ball with that path going to the outside to kind of hook it right around that tree.
Bunker.
Bunker?
Hooked it a little too much.
And probably would have got there. Like I say, when I get in trouble, we'll add one more thing to that. Priority number one is to get out of trouble. So we never want to hit a shot that ends up in the trees. Okay, we want to get out of trouble first. Number two, we want to miss the trees, so we're not hitting a tree, so it's getting out of trouble. And number three, we want to get to the green, if not a little further, on any of our approach shots. Okay,
cool. It's already rolling there, Davis.
All right, so we're here on the green. We just played hole number one, and we're just going to kind of talk about how to analyze and check out how we did. So first of all, most of the time players, when we play a practice round, we're going to hopefully play better in the tournament than we do in the practice round. Okay, one of the reasons we do that, and what we're kind of doing here on the green, is we're going to look at the hole backwards and kind of see how we did. So when we played, one person missed it short, one person was in the bunker, and one person was in the middle of the green. When we look at this hole backwards, we can kind of look how, you know, how easy it is. A lot of times players will say like, oh my gosh, I made an 8 or 7. How did I make such a high score? And when we stand on the green, it's like, what are we really doing? Hitting in the bunker, hitting it short. And so we can kind of look at the hole, look how much space is in the middle of the green here, look at the different angles to try to get it into that area. And when we really look at the hole backwards, it's going to make it a lot easier for us to play the next time. We can see spots with this pin being up here. We can see spots up here where we do want to chip it from. We can see spots like the bunker that we don't want to chip it from. And we can kind of make mental or even physical notes of, you know, writing in a notebook. Make sure to leave it short here. And that's why the tour pros are so good, is because they have notes of where to hit it, where the easiest spot to get up and down. And then when we watch a PGA tournament, they're missing in the same spots. So if we see players miss, they're going to miss it in the same spots, because that's where it's easier to get up and down. And so from here backwards, we look at this hole, and we can look at this pin to say, hey, at what point do we want to hit shots in? You know, anything on the tee here, a lot of players are hitting it too far and we get too short. When we stand here and kind of look at the hole backwards, realistically, anything from 100 yards to 130 yards is going to be an easy approach. If we hit a little bit extra driver, but it's in the rough and we have 70 yards, looking here back, it's not that advantageous. And so really analyzing the hole, taking some mental or physical notes of a hole, again, where we want to be, different slopes of the green. This green's pretty flat out here. We've got some greens that are really sloping, but we want to kind of check those slopes and say, hey, what angle is the best to hit in from? What distance can be the best to hit in from? And where do we want to miss it? Okay. For a lot of golfers, that might seem like a little bit of overkill. They might say, hey, I'm not good enough to miss it in a certain spot. But that being said, if we look at percentages of miss patterns, if we have a little bit better plan, it's going to go a long ways to missing in a better spot. And so again, when we get to the green, especially on a practice round, we're going to do a holistic look of the hole and make a lot of analysis that way.
So when it comes to amateur golfers, what would you say the biggest mistake that amateur golfers get into when it comes into course management?
I think, you know, number one is just not having a plan. You know, they're going to hit driver on every hole, and, you know, a lot of holes, it just doesn't do them a lot of good. Mm-hmm. They're going to miss in a lot of spots. So not having a plan. And then, like I talked about back there, missing short is something I see all the time with different players. And so, you know, being realistic with your game plan, being able to hit towards the middle of the green, not necessarily a pin location, can be a good one depending on skill level. And, you know, as they get better and better, it's all about just playing to percentages. Where do you miss more times than not, and kind of making a game plan around that. But I think not having a game plan is probably the number one thing with golfers when they come out to make themselves better. And again, they're going to say, hey, I'm not good enough to have a game plan, but everybody would benefit from some type of plan and, you know, doing things with a little bit more intent.
Cool.